Hello everyone, welcome to this Redwood rules explanation video. Redwood is an immersive wildlife photography themed game for 1 to 4 players. The game lasts about 45 minutes and is for ages 10 and up. It features a competitive mode, a team mode, and a single player mode. The goal of the game is to create the most beautiful panorama on your player board. That is, the panorama that will earn the most points at the end of the game. For setup, place the board in the center of the table, add the different stacks of panorama cards to it, and draw a random aurora card. This card will specify the layout of certain elements. It will show you the arrangement of the sun pond, the different objective cards, and the starting positions of the 7 animals you will see in a game of Redwood. You have 2 boards that serve as a general supply. The board for the different tokens, flower, victory point, sun, and sequoia tokens, and board for the different animals. You are going to create 2 template supplies, one for the move templates and another for the short templates. Keep the score pad and string nearby. Each player takes a player board as well as the 2 miniatures in their color. Randomly determine the first player who receives the first player token. Then, starting with the last player and going counterclockwise, each player places one of their 2 miniatures on the board. Each player will start on a hiking space. These are the spaces found at the edge of the board. For the placement of your miniature to be correct, the space must be completely covered. For example, like this for a 3-player game. A game of Redwood spans 5 rounds, after which there is a final scoring. Each round, each player will take a turn, which is made up of a few phases. You will choose your templates, move and shot. The composition of the panorama, you will score points according to the objective cards. Then, the animals photographed will move. Once you have finished your turn, it is the next player's turn. Let's take a detailed look at a player's full turn. The first thing you need to do is choose a move template and a shot template. You can choose your templates either from the supplies or from the templates that other players have. Each time you take a template from another player, that player gains a victory point. Please note that you are not allowed to reuse a template that you used in the previous round. In other words, one that is still in front of you from the last round. So, I will choose my move template. Please note that you are not allowed to test these templates. From the moment you touch a template, it is considered chosen. So I can't take a template and try it out to see if it will do what I want it to do. So, I choose my template and I put it down directly in front of me. I'm going to do the same with the shot template, which will represent my viewing angle. Again, no trying it out. Once I've chosen my templates, I will make my move. To make my move, I will clip my move template to my miniature and check my arrival point on the board. Please note that my template cannot cover an animal. We do not disturb the animals when we walk, nor can it touch another photographer. Photography is not a full contact sport. So I will end up here. To make my move, I use my second miniature, which goes to my arrival point, and while holding it lightly, I will remove the rest. So I made my move correctly. I will now be able to take my photo. I use my shot template that I just clipped to my miniature, and I choose the photograph I want to take. For example, I'm going to take a photo like this. The first thing to do is to determine my background. My background depends on my line of sight. I trace it to the edge of the board. You can see here that I'm coming to a colored arc that matches the background. So I take that panorama card and place it on my player board. When I place a panorama card, I place the first one wherever I want. Then, the subsequent cards must go on the right or left end of all of them already there. So the next one will go here or there. I won't be able to insert new cards between cards that are already there. Later, we will see that this has an impact during the final scoring. When I take my Panorama card, I check if the Sun pawn is there. If so, I'll take a Sun token and place it on my card. Again, at the end of the game, this sunlight can earn or lose me points. I will now see which things I got in my photo, which I will place on the available spaces of my Panorama card. In this case, I photographed a beaver. So I'm going to take a beaver token and place it on my card. I got a purple flower and a sequoia in my shot, so I take them from the supply to place them on my Panorama. Please note that each card has a certain number of spaces. I can't place more things than it has slots. For example, on this card, I only have 2 spaces, so I will only be able to include 2 things in my photograph. If I had 3 things to put on this card, I would have to choose which one I didn't fit into the shot. Now that my Panorama card is composed, I will see if I score points based on the objective cards that are revealed. In the first round, there is only 1 objective card revealed. I will look at the conditions and possibly score points for them. Every time I score points, I take them from the supply and store them on my board. I have almost finished my turn. I just need to move the animals I photographed. Note that for something to be photographed, it must be completely covered by my shot template. If I had decided to place my shot template this way, hoping to include both animals, these 2 animals would not be taken into account because they are only partially covered. That's why I decided to place my viewing angle like this. I will now recover my shot template, return it to my personal supply, and move the beaver pawn. Each animal has 2 preferred biomes. There are 5 on the board, and I'm just going to look at the supply for the 2 biomes that match the beaver. You can see that I will be able to place it in the river or the forest. It's up to me to choose its location. I'm going to put it here. I've finished my turn, so it's the next player's turn. When each player has taken their turn, and it is time for the first player to play again, move the Sun pawn forward 1 card. When it passes over an objective card, the Sun reveals it. So, during my next turn, when I check the conditions of the objective cards, I will take into account both the first card and the second. In the third round, there will be 3 cards, and so on. In the final round, all the cards will be revealed, so we will take them all into account. When each player has had 5 turns, there are normally 5 Panorama cards, we move on to the final scoring. To help you with this, you have a score pad with the different categories. First, we score the different species on our Panorama. So, we will look at the number of different animals that I have. Depending on the number, I will score a certain number of points. We will then look at the Panorama cards and score for the longest series of correctly connected Panorama cards. Of course, a continuous panorama is much more aesthetic. I will score a certain number of points based on the number of connections. Then, I note the points I collected during the game, both via objective cards and from other players using the same templates I'd chosen. Each animal is worth a certain number of points. The points are indicated right on the animal. Each sequoia is worth 2 victory points. We will then look at the number of sun tokens present on the panorama. If I have no sun tokens on my panorama, I do not score points. If I have exactly 1 sun token, I will score 4 points. On the other hand, if I have at least 2 sun tokens, I will lose 1 point. Then I will check the number of unoccupied spaces on my panorama. In other words, the spaces on which I haven't placed any tokens. Each such space makes me lose a point. Each flower on my panorama earns me a point. The 2 red spaces are for the advanced mode. Let's talk about that. Redwood has an expert version to bring a little extra challenge to the game. It plays identically to the basic version, the only difference concerns the panorama cards. In the basic version, you will use the side of the panorama cards with the white bottom. In expert mode, you flip them over and use the side with the black bottom. Now, each panorama card has a constraint for one of the spaces on it. Now, each stack of panorama cards has a type of constraint on one of the spaces on it. For example, for this type of card, if I want to be able to place something on this space, it absolutely must be a purple flower. Another example, in this case, if I want to be able to use this space, I absolutely must take a picture of a bear. The game plays exactly the same way. The scoring is also the same, but with 2 differences. During the final scoring, you will no longer score 1 point per flower. Instead, you will score 7 points for each series of 3 different flowers. You will also lose 3 points for each specific space, by which I mean the space with the constraint that's still visible on your panorama cards. Again, the player with highest score wins. Redwood also has a team game mode, so you can play 2 against 2. All the basic rules apply, except that the 2 players from the same team take their turns simultaneously. During the template selection phase, you can still take a template used by another player during the previous turn. But if you take a template from your teammate does not earn a victory point. We will then move on to the move phase, which will also be done simultaneously and which will have the additional constraint that our moves cannot overlap, like this. This is not allowed, so we'll need to optimize the space on the game board. This overlapping constraint also applies to the viewing angles. At the end of the 5th round, we will move on to the final scoring. Each player individually counts their own points for their panorama. Then, total each team's points. The team with the higher score wins. Team mode is of course compatible with Redwood's expert mode. Redwood also has a solo mode. To play alone, you just have to choose a scenario from the rulebook. This scenario will tell you the types of objective cards to place around the game board. The Aurora card you use to set up the different animals will also tell you the 2 hiking spaces that you can use during your first turn. Each scenario will give you a goal to accomplish, which will allow you to score your points at the end of the game. If you do not accomplish this goal, you lose. If successful, you count your points as usual, and then you can compare your score to high scores from both the game designer himself and the developer. The single-player mode is of course compatible with the expert version of Redwood. Now you know all the rules of the different game modes of Redwood. Happy gaming, and see you soon!
Wow.